Good afternoon. My name is Boaz Assaf, and before I will present the technology that Colospan is developing, I want to share a short story with you from my career as a sales rep with Ethicon Endosurgery. I was approached one day by a friend of a friend who was searching for a colorectal surgeon. His father was diagnosed with rectal cancer, so I referred him to one of the leading surgeons in the country. The father was scheduled to neoadjuvant therapy and a surgery a few weeks later. The surgery was very complex, but it went very well. The surgeon was managed to remove the tumor completely and reconnect the bowel. But because it was a very complex operation, the surgeon performed another procedure called diverting stoma. He basically took a small bowel loop outside the abdominal wall and connected the patient to a plastic bag to collect the patient feces. This had a devastating impact on the father's life. Before surgery, he used to swim every morning. Now with the bag, he would not do it anymore. He was so afraid to have a problem with the bag, so he almost never left the house. He even stopped sharing the same room with his wife. After 4 months, he had a second surgery to close the stoma, and he was again the happiest man alive. When I founded Colospan a few years later, with a vision to eliminate the need for diverting stoma, the son, who was a managing partner of a large healthcare VC, was the first investor in Colospan. I'm sure that everybody here knows someone who has had stoma. From an economic perspective, the direct economic burden of diverting stoma is more than $3 billion a year. My personal experience, coupled with the big significant pains, economic and clinically, of diverting stoma, is the genesis of Colospan. So we're based in Israel. We completed 2 successful studies with 90 patients. The product is CE marked and ready for launch in Europe. We just got our ID approval to start the pivotal trial in the US. We've got 10 patents granted and 7 more applications pending. And we raised just about $12 million from large VCs in Israel and 1 strategic investor from the surgical domain. Our frame story is colorectal cancer. This is obviously a well-known disease all over the world. Most patients who are diagnosed with colorectal cancer will undergo surgery, where the disease section will be resected and the 2 healthy sections will be reconnected by colorectal anastomosis. The most devastating complication associated with colorectal surgery is anastomotic leakage of colon content into the abdominal cavity. It happens in a high percentage of cases, and it leads to dreadful outcomes. In the best case scenario, we're talking about longer hospitalization, intensive medication, very high rate of pre-operation, and huge cost. In the worst case scenario, we're talking about death. And most importantly, when the surgeon is rolling the patient into the OR, he doesn't know if it's going to leak or not. The gold standard that surgeons are providing the patient today to deal with the clinical outcome of potential leak is diverting stoma, taking a small bowel loop outside the abdominal wall, connect the patient to a plastic bag for a few months to collect the patient feces. Besides making life very difficult for the patient, the stoma is associated with very high rate of surgical complication, and closing the stoma requires another surgery, and of course, huge cost. Here's a short animation describing our solution to this problem. Can we have the voice, please?
Bypass device designed to reduce contact of fecal content with the anastomotic site. After the disease segment is resectioned, the Colospan device placement begins through the placement of a single silicone ring around the colon. The surgeon completes the anastomosis as planned. The device is then inserted into the rectum using a delivery system. Once deployed, the thin silicone sheath is positioned by inflating the 3 balloons, and the delivery system is extracted from the body. The ring connecting tube is fixed outside the abdominal wall, just like a surgical drain. All colon content passes through the sheath. Even if there is slight anastomotic dehiscence, there is no spillage into the abdominal cavity. The diameter of the balloon is slightly larger than that of the ring, preventing the sheath from moving downstream beyond the ring location while still allowing it to move freely inside the colon, preventing damage to the colon wall. After 10 days, when the risk for leakage is reduced, the device is extracted with no need for surgical intervention. The ring is opened from the outside and extracted like a surgical drain. The balloons are then deflated and the sheath is pulled out from the rectum.
We're basically replacing a very extreme external bypass with a very innocent internal one. The application is very quick and simple. We are reducing the clinical outcomes in case of a leak, and most importantly, removing the device is done without any surgical intervention. We are uniquely positioned to transform the colorectal surgery market by providing value to all stakeholders, improve quality of life for patients, improve outcome for surgeons, and significant reduction of cost for payers and providers. Our addressable market is more than $3 billion a year based on 1 million procedures performed per year in the lower left segment of the colon and rectum. We completed 2 studies in Europe with 90 patients with very good results, and based on our FDA IDE approval, we are looking to launch our pivotal trial in the US in the next few weeks. We considered the stoma to be our main competitor, but there were other technologies that were looking to solve the problem of leaks. Staple line reinforcement and sealants were the 2 main ones. Unfortunately, none of them has managed to show any efficacy in the clinical settings. Our potential partners list, including the top surgical companies, along with endoscopy companies and the stoma companies. The product is CE marked and ready for launch in Europe, and in the US, we're looking at PMA path and Class 3 device, and we already have the IDE approved. Obviously, innovation is not enough today, and everybody needs to show some economic value. Our reimbursement strategy is focused on hospitals as our main stakeholders. We develop an economic model showing that by replacing the diverting stoma with our device, hospitals and payers can save up to $25,000 per patient. When looking at our 5-year plan, we see 2 inflection points. The first one, beginning of 2022, where we'll complete the patient enrollment for the study, and the next one, the end of 2023, when we will have the FDA approval. We're now raising $20 million to support our FDA trial and to launch the product in Europe. So to summarize, we're talking about the #1 unmet clinical need in colorectal surgery. Represent a huge economic opportunity. We have an IP-protected solution, effective one, to answer this need, and we have a great team to take this company forward. Our team comprised of top talent from R&D, clinical and regulatory management, and sales and marketing of medical devices. We're also backed up by key surgeons from US and Europe. Thank you very much.